Good evening and welcome everybody to Knights on Bikes Tuesday Talks with your host Peter Morton. Today we have State Advocate from New Mexico, Brother Eric Kirby. Welcome, Brother Eric.
Oh, thanks for having me, Peter.
Good. Tell me a little bit about yourselves before we get started. How'd you come upon Knights of Columbus and Knights on Bikes?
Oh, my father-in-law got me in the Knights of Columbus, and it's a family thing on their side. So after I became Catholic, became a knight. I've got to enjoy that process of working my way up through Grand Knight for 3 years, faithful navigator, district deputy, and all the way through state advocate now. And yes, about 6 years ago, I got involved with Knights on Bikes in New Mexico when it was in its infant stages. And so I got to work up through recruitment kind of chair, and then vice president over archdiocese, and then state president, and now I'm a advisor for the National Knights on Bike side.
Wow, quite. How long ago did you join Knights of Columbus?
Oh, about 10 years ago.
Okay, good. Now you and I had talked about several times about Knights on Bikes USA being more of a bottom-up than a top-down philosophy. Dive into that a little bit more detail.
Okay, well, so the advantages of the bottom-up is you get the council's input and support as you move through, and we get to show how we're able to serve the Knights of Columbus through recruitment, retention. We get to help with all the other programs as well. So getting support of our fellow brothers is really how most programs come about the long term anyway.
Right. Knights on Bikes USA, of course, is we are Knights of Columbus members who ride motorcycles in support of the state and local programs, and it can start at the local council level and even at the state level. So dive into that a little bit.
Well, so starting at the local level, there's some great advantages for us. So it allows us to, first of all, work with our councils, and that is as easy as getting with your Grand Knight and your officers and telling them, what Knights on Bikes are about, and that we're there to serve the council and our community and our parishes through programs, and them being very active in those programs. So that should allow us to have some insurance coverage and allow us through the councils, because we're a program of the councils, to handle money through the councils itself. And I think that's an important piece there, is because we're not allowed to touch money as Knights on Bikes, but a council can. So, talking with as a state advocate, I communicate with Supreme. And an important saying that comes back a lot is, just because Knights are doing it doesn't make it a Knights program. If it's not a council program, then it's not a program. And that works its way up through the state at that point. So you continue to snowball that and get more and more councils on board, and eventually your state looks at the program and how it affects your local community, and that seemed to be the quickest way to become a recognized program in many cases.
Right, and that's a real important thing, because we got to make sure that we are what we say we are, which is Knights of Columbus. And all we're doing is just doing it in a slightly different way with motorcycles and the camaraderie and fraternity that goes with that. And tell us a little bit about some of the state programs that you've seen. And
being in the mountain area, we get for the most part 3 or 4 seasons a year, and for those areas who get to ride year round, I mean, they get to focus on like the Silver Rose and transporting icons and really bike friendly activities where you could ride most of the activity. For other areas though, where there's months where we're not on a bike, it allows us to really focus on 40 Days of Life and the core programs, as we meet as groups, that's a small core program. So are able to encourage, the programs that are already happening. Maintenance days where we're helping brothers work on their bikes and making sure they're safe. That's a helping hands project. But your Grand Night and your local council has the right to put in, a Knights on Bikes program director, and that could be a first step into learning the processes of Knights of Columbus. And a lot of times, being an advocate for a state, but also being an advisor is just everything the Knights of Columbus does is written down and very clearly and easy to follow. But not many men really experience that entire chain. So as you grow or you have questions or maybe you have concerns or problem with another knight, there's always a way to fix that at the lowest level possible. So in most cases, the goal isn't to jump to, a state officer or the state deputy or supreme, but a lot of things are meant to grow and to be corrected at the council level. That's where we try and either say no to something or move something up is from the council level.
Exactly. You bring up a good point with that that kind of those ideas, in that we already have the structure within the Knights of Columbus. We don't need another structure called Knights on Bikes, and we're just operating within that structure.
And the need is definitely there. And as Knights of Columbus, this time of year is really exciting for the officer side of the house. Like right now, resolutions are due within the next 30 days for most states. There's a couple rules depending on for the due date of, when your state meets in either late April or May. But we're coming into election season, so our members really need to serve our councils in the parishes. So now's the time to really think about the positions you are interested in. And there's tons of training out there on what each position does. And now's a great time to mentor for a little bit too, to see if that's a role that you have passion for and time for, and you really want to fulfill that, and starting from just a program director, through inside outside guard warden, all the way through advocates and chancellors, deputy grand knights, all of those have a different role. And I think we view a lot of it as, if you're not the grand knight of a council, you didn't achieve what you're after. But in a lot of cases, they just have different roles. Right now, financial secretaries. Coming out of COVID, we've had a lot of financial secretaries and district deputies that have been in their roles now for 6-8 years, and they're getting ready to time out. So if you're interested in those, district deputy could have a warden, so you could actually see what they're doing and how to grow into that. State program directors, local program directors. So right now is a really big time to start looking into any of those. And for, like I was pointing out, for a lot of states, the time to put a resolution in to be a state officer is closing, but you could always do a floor domination, and that gets into more of the technical side of elections. But, if anybody's interested, now's the time to grow. And if you have questions, reach out to your leadership, or, myself, or one of the advocates that's and/slash advisors with Knights on Bikes. We have a very knowledgeable crew. I know Chris at Essential, he's a district deputy. Our Knights on Bikes, Doug is, we voted him as president, but I think he's a committee lead, right?
He's the chairman of the committee of the advisors.
Chairman, he's been in leadership for Knights of Columbus for a long time there in Louisiana.
Right.
I think, Mark, we've given a crash course in advocate lessons too, but
Well, he's also
Yourself.
in his council in Illinois too.
Yeah, and people are trying to encourage him to take off a bigger bite at the state level too. So, um, no,
And yours truly has been Grand Knight for countless times, and also have been 5 times district deputy. So
yeah,
it's all of us that are in these Knights on Bikes advisory positions have been through a lot of different chairs. So we're well versed in how Knights of Columbus works, which is important because that's what we are first and foremost. We are Knights of Columbus.
yeah, and I think a lot of our growing pains throughout the years was lack of knowledge on how the Knights of Columbus works, and how to stay within that structure. And I think now that we voted back in Branson to double down on that structure and to get back into the councils, I think we're making great forward progress. We have many states who are on the verge of having very successful and woven in programs with their local councils. And something that Knights on Bikes does that even the assemblies can't do is how many councils they can link together really quickly. Like a rosary ride, you could have 5 or 6 councils, 12 councils involved. And that's just through the Knights on Bikes saying, hey, we're going to cover this many mileage. Who would like to sponsor a stop? So, like we said a little bit before, when it comes to the program side, this could be a great benefit to Knights of Columbus as long as we allow it to be a great benefit to them.
Yeah, you mentioned the rosary runs. We've also got Lent coming up, and there's a lot of states, Georgia included, that's doing the Way of the Cross ride, and everybody's welcome to that. You don't have to be you don't have to be on a motorcycle, although the Knights on Bikes on their motorcycles are sponsoring it. But we're stopping at, I think in Georgia it's 5, but some of the larger states are doing all 14 different stops at different churches and doing Way of the Cross, Stations of the Cross is what it boils down to. So that's something as well. That's very visible and um, just a neat thing to do. We started doing that a couple of years ago, and it's a very moving way of getting into the Lenten spirit.
Yeah. Now, speaking on the Knights on Bikes hat, I'm going to put on for a second. We're getting to the part now that we're starting to work on a national calendar. So we're looking for committee members for that. So if any of y'all out there are have time to put towards helping us with our website, I mean, we have great opportunities within Knights on Bikes to serve as well. And then in 2025, New Mexico is going to host our rally, and so we haven't released dates because nobody wants to sign any contracts until this summer. But if you're interested in helping, and we look forward to seeing everybody there, that's coming quicker than I think any of us on the planning side we're expecting it to come.
So lots of exciting things going on, and I'm glad you mentioned the New Mexico rally. That's going to be fun because we hadn't been on that side of the country in a while. So I'm looking forward to that in 2025, summer of 2025. I think we can commit to, right?
Yes, definitely be in the summer.
Exactly. All right, brother Eric, it's been wonderful chatting with you and getting caught up on lots of different things and things to think about and how we operate with that bottom-up philosophy and support your local councils and assemblies too. We didn't hit that too hard, but assemblies too, and moreover the state deputy and the state council. So that's how we operate. So it's been wonderful, and I like to close. I've been closing out these last few episodes with a new slogan, which is came out from the West Virginia state deputy who recently joined Knights on Bikes, and what he likes to say is "Peace be with you." I like the Latin version of that, Pax Vobiscum.
With you, brother.
All right,
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me today.
all right, it's a pleasure talking to you. Have a great day.